So we will jump right in. Good evening, everyone. I am Carmen Tanner Slaughter, and welcome to the Woofer. Tonight we have a very special guest, as we do with all of these author series, and she is Tamara Winfrey-Harris. Tamara is a native of Gary, Indiana, and she writes about race and gender and their intersection with politics, pop culture, and current events. She's a speaker, essayist, and columnist whose work has been published in the New York Times, The Atlantic, Ebony, Cosmopolitan, and the Los Angeles Times. She's also been called to share her analysis on a range of topics for NPR's Weekend Edition and Janet Mock's So Popular on MSNBC.com. Her first book, which I love so much, was The Sisters Are All Right, and it was called by the Washington Post a myth-busting portrait of Black women in America, because it dealt with breaking the narrative of Black women in America and all the sort of untruths that are told about us so often. And then it won the Phyllis Wheatley Award, the Indie Fab Award, Independent Publishers Living Now Award, and the Ippy Award. Tamara is a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and she is ride or die for Black women, Black girls, and femmes. And that is evidenced by her first book that I just showed you. And then, of course, the latest book that we're going to be discussing tonight, which just published on this past Tuesday, Dear Black Girl, Letters from Your Sisters on Stepping into Your Power. So welcome, Tamara. I'm so happy to get to talk to you tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I want to talk a little bit about how, for me personally, these two books are like circular healing books, because I loved how you address things in The Sisters Are All Right. And I think one of the main questions that you had was like, what is wrong with Black women? And your response in the book was, you know, not a damn thing. There's nothing wrong with Black women. The problem is other people. It is not us. And how Black women, we learn all of our wisdom and how to be women from our foremothers. And also you shared some data about how young Black women who have like a very strong connection with other women, it helps them with like understanding their racial heritage, and it helps them to be happier and healthier, and they thrive more, they're stronger, they have better relationships, they achieve their goals more easily, and how it's so important for the women who've gone before them to sort of lay that foundation. And I wondered, you know, we want to do more than survive, we want to thrive. And even in the conclusion of that book, you talked about setting up that foundation and making sure that these young women have someone to guide them through. But that was 6 years ago.
Mhm.
So I'm like, you sort of spoke Dear Black Girls into existence. And I wanted to ask you to kind of give everybody a little bit of the background on how Dear Black Girls came to be and the project that led to this beautiful, like this gorgeous cover and this beautiful book.
So it was kind of two things. Like a seed was planted back when I was doing the book tour for Sisters Are All Right. And I noticed something. I was, you know, driving around a lot of times with a good friend of mine who like acted as my publicist, and really we were just like turning up and having fun girl time.
Of course, that's what you're supposed to do on book tour.
That's what we're really doing. But we were like leaving a book event, and we both realized that sometimes when we were speaking to groups of Black women, they would reject stereotypes as they related to them. But then when we started talking about young women and girls, then that, you know, sort of that same negative language would come up. And especially it stood out to us because at that particular event, a woman had said, I don't know about these young women. They seem to be awfully free with their bodies. I don't know. I guess it's liberation. And like the look on her face
right.
was such disgust. And it's like, you know, we can be each other's greatest allies, but we have to deal with the way we've internalized all the stuff that's been put on us.
Mhm.
And so, you know, fast forward a couple years, and I was doing a workshop, an intergenerational workshop for Black women and Black girls. And I just got this idea that the girls should walk away with a letter from a Black woman. And I kind of offhandedly went on social media and asked, hey, you know, who can write? I need 12 letters. Who can write these letters? Black women showed up in an amazing way. I got more than 50 letters from around the world, and they were beautiful and they were so heartfelt. And like, I read the first one, and it's like, this has to be more than a moment. It's a movement. Like, women need this. This could model the way that we can be allies to one another.
Yeah, that's really lovely. And I loved when you said that, you know, Black women showed up, and I'm like, as we are wont to do, like we show up for everybody.
And extra too, like,
oh, I know,
right. Here 10 journals and a letter, you know.
Like, here's a letter, here's a journal, here's some stamps. Right. Like, if they want, you know. But that's what we do. And I think it's so lovely that you had such strong participation. And one of the things, like I said, for me, the companion of Sisters Are All Right with Dear Black Girl, because all of us have been a Black girl. You're not a Black woman until you're a Black girl. But it sort of joins like my personal, like, Black woman canon of, you know, like Flat-Footed Truths by Patricia Bell Scott. And, you know, but some of us are brave. Like, all these really wonderful books that remind us how wonderful and amazing we are, because most of us know it. I mean, some of us don't. Some of us have, you know, life experiences that keep us from recognizing the power that we hold. But these two books, along with so many others that have been written, like Bell Hooks Communion, like, I think about all of those, and I really feel very strongly that Dear Black Girl is going to be revolutionary.
Oh, thank you.
I really do. And I'm not just saying that, because it's, for people who don't know, the book is a collection of epistolary advice. So all of these women wrote these letters. And with me, I'm a wordy girl. When I was little, I used to sit around and read the dictionary. So
me too.
Oh yeah, see, great. All right, so you're gonna be on board with me on this. So I was looking, I was like, you know, I can't not think about how, you know, epistle in its original sense refers to the letters in the New Testament. And as I kept reading some of the letters, I was like, you know, this is really liturgical. Like, it is sort of a Bible for us to truly, like, get into our sacredness and, like, the worship of ourselves, which so often we don't do. And I'm also a church girl, so I can't help but, like, you know, that intersection is always going to be there. But honestly, reading this book, flipping back into The Sisters Are All Right, it was, and I hope I don't cry, because I did get a little weepy. I did bring my hanky, it's right here. But it was just such a holy experience. And in my mind, I kept saying, it's the temple of our familiar. It's the temple of our familiar. And, you know, I remember how, I can't remember what publication, but they had interviewed Alice Walker, like, right after the Temple of My Familiar came out. And they were saying, oh, well, the reviews aren't good and people don't love this book and da da da. And she was like, well, that's because they're defending a way of life, like a patriarchal system, which I do not worship. And that is what I kept hearing in my mind as I was reading these letters and comparing it with Sisters Are All Right, and just thinking about how beautiful of a marriage it is for us as Black women. So I just want to tell you, thank you for taking on this responsibility of compiling all of this, of putting the call out and putting them all in such a beautiful arrangement. And that leads me to my question of, how did you decide to break the letters up into the certain sections?
That was so hard. Like,
I'm sure. I mean, I can tell, yeah.
So I didn't want it to be like all advice, and I didn't want it to be all inspiration, because I felt like a lot of books for girls, teens, kids are like, do you go? and that was the extent of it, or you
Right.
do this, and that was the extent to it. I wanted Black girls to see themselves in all the ways they show up in the world.
Mhm.
And I wanted them to read about experiences that they have that people don't always like to talk about and don't like to acknowledge.
Mhm.
So I wanted to start with kind of inspiration, talking about identity. So it was uplifting, and then
Mhm.
put some of the more difficult stuff in the middle, and then go back to kind of advice that was kind of uplifting again, which
Yeah.
is kind of a, like it's kind of the life cycle. There are like ebbs and flows, and you're up and you go through tough stuff, and then you come out on the other side.
Yeah. I thought it was like the arrangement was great. And that's another thing that I love about it is it's the type of book that you can pick up at any point. It's almost, again, it's like a devotional. You don't have to read it straight through. You don't have to read one chapter. You can go to this section, or if this day you're having, family drama, you can go to the section about the family relationships. If it's one day where you're like, I just don't feel so pretty today, you can go to a section about those. So the effort that you put into giving that balance and making it flow so smoothly, I figured it had to have taken a good deal of organization and time and effort to get it that way.
Somebody asked me what I wanted, like what I wanted Black girls to take away from the book.
Mm-hmm.
And, I realized I want them to feel loved
Yes.
and feel like they got a kind word.
And
And
they
so
do.
that was the organization that kind of, that felt like that to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's definitely a labor of love, and it turned out, like I said, it's just so beautiful. I want, like, seriously, everybody, just go ahead, and if you don't already have it, go ahead and order it now. Order a copy for yourself. Order a copy for a Black girl, a Black man, just order like 5 copies at a time and have them on your shelf. So when you run into somebody that needs one, you can just hand it to them because it's that important. It's just that important. Um, I was thinking that one of the things that I've seen that you've written about, because you write so many fantastic essays, and I've read a few of them, but for Black women, we have so many roles.
Mhm.
It's mother, daughter, sister, wife, cousin, daughter, mother, sister, wife. I remember my mom and I went with a good friend to this one act play like 30 years ago. And it was like experimental theater. And it was just this woman sitting on a blank stage, and she just kept mother, daughter, sister, wife, and it was, but I would kind of like to see it again now that I'm a little bit
Uh-huh.
older. But she was just, and then she'd break into like these different characters of that particular role.
Uh-huh.
And when we left, we were all like, well, what did you think? And at the time I wasn't a wife or a mother, but I
Uh-huh.
was a daughter and a sister.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, I kind of get it. I think I
Mhm.
know where she was going. But one of the things with this book is that there's a letter for every one of those roles. And I was curious if there were any letters that you had to omit because they didn't fit the framework of the book, or did you just run out of space and you just had to not include some of them, or was there ever anything that really would not have fit into the book?
So it's kind of a yes and yes.
Mhm.
So I have way more letters than are in the book. And, like I said, I didn't want it to be all advice or all inspiration. So I tried to choose the best of the letters in those
Mhm.
sections, but I have other ones that are amazing.
Mhm.
Um, and then also, like the prompt I gave to women, that what I asked for are letters that were feminist and anti-racist and anti-respectability politics and
Mhm.
LGBTQ positive and all of those things. So sometimes I got a letter that had a line or two or a general message that I felt didn't fit into that.
Right.
And I don't want those. The last thing I want is for a girl to pick this up and feel shamed about anything. And so
Exactly.
those letters didn't make the cut.
Gotcha. Um, I know I was thinking how, as Black women, we get so much grief from all sides. We get it from white men, white women, Black men, other Black women. And sometimes we even get it from ourselves. So I loved that thread in almost every section and almost every letter within the section. Where's this vulnerability from the woman who's writing the letter, and these gentle reminders that it's okay, that it's okay to just be who you are and to not let other people other you. And it's so lovely because those conversations are so necessary. And I know there's just not a lot of people who have that sort of support system in their lives. So I'm just really hoping that this book will reach the girls who truly, truly need it. I come from a family of women and we're like rock solid. And I never had to struggle with most of these issues, but there were still certain instances that happened that, would give me pause. And I was thinking, even those who come from the greatest families and the greatest support, there's still something in this book for each of us. And it doesn't feel like any of them come from a place of privilege. They're all so accessible. And I was just amazed at that. And I know you said you got so many and that you had to like cull through them and choose the ones that would go in, but it was like an embarrassment of riches that had to feel like that. I'm assuming that it did.
It did. And it was also cathartic for me. Like, I almost feel guilty because it's like I would read those letters and I'm like, I'm getting something out of this, I'm getting, and which is why I think the book is also good for women, because there's a part of us that never grows up, there's a part of me that's still a little Tammy in there.
Exactly, yes.
And reading some of those letters pulls some of those things out. And I actually heard first from some of the women who wrote the letters, and they said the same thing, that, doing this work made me go back and really think about some things that I had just shut away.
And things that you didn't even, you just put them in, you cast them into the sea of forgetfulness and you just move on. But there were just like little things that popped up when I was reading them. And I was like, oh yeah, no matter how accomplished we may be, and no matter how wonderful other people may think that we are and the things that we've done, there's always something back there that we can get that little nudge, like that gentle nudge to push us along when you have those moments where you get stalled. So I love that it was cathartic for the women as well, and for you, because I know it was a lot of work. So I wanted to get a little bit into the thing of how, of course, during the past week, there's just been the social media debates and all the think pieces galore and the hot takes and, water cooler, I guess.
I know where you're going.
Yeah. And so related to the interview formerly known as Oprah with Meghan and Harry, even though most people kept referring to it as the Meghan Markle interview, which really irritated me. And it's even gotten so bad that like earlier this morning, I saw like 6 different outlets were publishing a piece about the patio chairs that they were sitting in, and how like apparently one of the Brady boys, Peter Brady, I guess, makes furniture now, and he made those chairs. So just whatever, like can we just like focus on the really important points?
Right.
But the vitriol that has been tossed at her has been so troubling to me, particularly the people who are coming from the, well, she's not even Black perspective.
Well, I mean, the example, well, what that ought to tell you is that, society hates Blackness and womanhood so much that even a white passing woman who, went to Northwestern, who's a millionaire in her own right, who checks all of those respectability boxes, didn't matter.
Right.
She was too much Black woman, whatever you think she is, or whatever she thinks she is, she was
Yeah.
too much Black woman for them.
Right.
And that, and for that reason, we ought to be willing to fight, even if you don't care anything about Meghan Markle.
That's exactly what I was talking to my mom last night. I was like, it's not even so much about caring about the fairy tale and, oh, she could have been a princess. I'm like, no, she is one of us. I don't care. Even if she didn't think she was one of us, she's still one of us. And like, I'm like, plus she's got a whole Black mama. Like, how do you?
And you see that the ways people are reacting to her are the ways that people react to Black women. She's angry. They're not giving her any grace. I've heard a lot of people say, like, well, she should have known she's marrying into this colonialist, racist family. But I'm like, a lot of us marry into a whole lot of messed up families for no tiaras and a whole lot less. Right. Like, people, some of us go to work at colonialist organizations, get paid from them all the time.
Yeah.
Like, just say that it's unacceptable. It's just unacceptable. Yeah. Period.
It's been really frustrating. So I was really curious to get your thoughts on that. And I'm like, because as if her proximity to whiteness and the fact that she, like, the royal privilege didn't extend to her. And then I saw something about how they said, oh, can you be 50% less? And I'm like, so like 50% less Black? Like, what? So I wanted to touch on that just a little bit, because I was thinking, oh, poor Meghan could use this book. Can we FedEx? Can we FedEx sis a copy so that she will find herself, even in the like family relationships, in the letter about, being biracial. Like, there's a lot of letters in here that might be helpful. So Meghan, if you're watching,
pick up the book.
But and I was gonna move from that to, I saw Dion Cole, the comedian, actor, whatever. He's mostly silly, but sometimes he has some really good thoughts. And one of his thoughts that he shared on Instagram a couple of days ago, he was saying, like, how is everybody suddenly an expert on the plight of the Black woman in general? And how do you know what Black women are thinking? How do you know what Black women are going through, not just in that atmosphere, but just from day to day, going to work in an office or a school or a hospital? And he was like, most of y'all haven't even asked a Black woman how she's doing today. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks, because I was like, he is so right. Like, that doesn't happen.
And that's what, like, sparked my first book and this one, because I want to center Black women and Black girls' voices and experiences, because people don't. They talk at us and they talk about us and they analyze, they think piece us to death, but they don't listen. They don't listen,
Right. And if they would listen to us, so many of the world's problems would already be solved.
Sure would. It wouldn't have taken that long for us to find out the winner of the election.
That too. And interestingly, I was going to ask you, I know that, the only gaze for you is ours. You're not concerned about what other people think, their thoughts. You write for us, about us, for us. And I just was curious, and the book's only been out for a few days, so maybe there hasn't been enough time for this type of feedback. But have you gotten any people who've said, like, well, it says Dear Black Girls, does that mean that, like, white girls or white women can't read it? Or is this, there were people who were like, oh, can white people go see Black Panther? And I'm like, I'll take my behind and plop down for Iron Man and, Spider-Man and the Avengers. Like, yeah, white people can go see Black Panther. So I'm just curious if anyone has even brought that up to you.
Yeah, so I've been asked a few times, like, whether or not so, or they'll say, so, but I think that, white women and white girls can get some things from this, which is great. Like, I I feel like, Black girls and Black women are centered in this book, but that doesn't mean no one else can read it. I think there are things in our experience that are universal, universal to humans, universal to women. And in the same way that we are all told we have to read the canon of literature, which is mostly written by, old white men, and we're supposed to pull from that as Black women. I think people can read this book that centers our stories and pull from it what they can use.
Right.
So it's for us, but everybody's welcome.
Everyone is welcome to try and find yourself in our experience.
Yes. Or this is a way to listen and learn about us.
So I just was curious. I thought, well, it's only been a few days. Maybe she hasn't had a lot of feedback on that question, but I know how it tends to come up anytime the word Black is centered, whether it's about Black women or just the Black experience or anything. Like I said, with Black Panther, just because the word Black was in the title and the whole cast was Black, it's like, oh,
maybe I can't do this.
Right. So I see my time always gets away from me. I have so much. But I know that last year, in the middle of a pandemic, you completed your yoga teacher training. And that you're certified through Yoga Alliance. And I don't know how long have you been, practicing yoga, but what propelled you to get certified?
I had, always kind of I'd always wanted to get certified, but then I also didn't feel like it was a thing for me, because, of a larger body, and I'm getting older, and I'm like, and I wasn't sure that I saw myself in that space, even though, I'd done yoga off and on probably for the last 15, 20 years. Not necessarily consistently, but every time I had a regular practice, it was so nourishing and healing to me. And then I had an opportunity. I found out about this training through Communities Rising, which is a yoga teacher training that is just for people of color and taught by two awesome instructors, Rolf Gates and Nikki Myers, who are also people of color. And it was I found out about it and was signed up for it like a week later.
Oh, wow.
And it ended up being like, there was something in the universe, because it was so necessary last year in the middle of quarantine and pandemic and everything going around. It forced me to center myself and to, be spiritually present and, all of those things throughout the year. And I feel like, I really want to share some of that healing with other Black people, to help us restore and heal. And show that like yoga is for everybody. It's not just for the, 20-year-old skinny blonde girl that you see on the cover of some yoga magazine.
Right. The super thin, like crop top, thigh gap. Yeah, no, that is not my body.
My crop top days are over.
Long gone, yes. And I think that, we are seeing this move for a lot of people. Self-care has become a buzzword in the past few years, but I have noticed that we're seeing this move within the Black community, and especially with Black women, of claiming that need for restorative care for ourselves, and not just yoga. I mean, people have been doing yoga for a long time, not including Black people, but I see more of this focus on rest and meditation and yoga and the whole nap ministry move. And like, of course, I never had a problem taking. I'm like, I need me a nap. Like, I'm shutting it down.
I don't know how I'm gonna make it when I go back like into the office, because can I take my midday nap? Like, what am I gonna do with that?
And this sort of move to like claim our need and our requirement for like this mindfulness. And a really good friend of mine and her children, they have actually they have a YouTube channel. It's called Mindfulness Maya. Look it up. And Maya is a little brown girl. And they also have a couple of books. I know they're in e-format, and I think one of them is you can actually order it. But anyway, it's just so lovely because I also taught preschool for a while, and I love seeing this so that our little girls can start from such a younger age than we did. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was in school, of course we had PE, but nobody was,
Right.
teaching us yoga and like breathing practices and all these sort of things. And I think it just sort of goes along with this, the Dear Black Girl letters, and taking care of ourselves and teaching our babies to be gentle with themselves from such a young age so that they don't have to wait until they're 20, 30 plus our age to have that sort of peace and to have those avenues to help them claim that peace when everything else is swirling around them. I mean, ideally we'll get to a point where they won't need those things, but it's just
And
so important.
I love that there's this movement, including in yoga, to like acknowledge that movement is for everybody's body, but everybody's body is not the same.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching this yoga, I think her name is Fringish or something like that, well, a yoga instructor on Instagram. And she did some, she was talking about forward folds. You do a lot of those in yoga. And she's like, if you got a belly, she's like, which I do, she's like, just pick it up and move it out of the way. I was like, you know what? You can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Usually you would like forward fold and just not be able to breathe because you got you got boots, you got thighs, you got studs all crushed in there, and
Yeah.
you're like, I should be able to do it like this thinner person in front of me. But she's like, no, I just pick her up and gently move her. Just
And I love that because it takes all of that sort of hesitancy of that, still those little moments of shame, or I don't look like her and I don't
yeah,
move like him, that sort
yeah.
of thing. So that's really beautiful. I wanted to ask you, what other things do you do? I'm one of those people, I don't really love the term guilty pleasure because I don't feel like guilt should be attached to pleasure.
Right.
So I just say, like, what other comfort behavior do you indulge in to kind of step away when the world does get to be too much? Because there are occasions when it is, and you just kind of have to close the door and push everything aside and like take care of yourself in those ways. So besides the yoga, what else do you do?
I am a sucker for like a cozy mystery.
Me too.
Easier the better. Like I love like Midsummer Murders, which is like the Law and Order of like Great Britain. It's like been on for 20 seasons. I
Mm-hmm.
love a Murder, She Wrote.
Yes.
I love a Sherlock Holmes book or an Agatha Christie. Like I don't want like gory stabbings. I want
Mhm.
like the butler with the vicar came over and then the butler hit him with a candle. Like
Right.
that, like that kind of stuff. I
Oh
love
yeah.
that. Um,
Yeah.
that and my husband always laughs at me. For some reason, I can fall asleep to ghost hunting shows.
Oh
Maybe
wow.
it's the night vision and
Mm-hmm.
all the whispering, but I like can put that on and fall right asleep. I don't know what that says about me.
I
Um,
mean, hey, if it works, it works. But I love that you're into the cozies. Like, I
yeah,
have seen every episode of Murder She Wrote, and
yeah,
I will still watch them. I don't even care. Sometimes I'll be like, oh yeah, he was the killer. I forgot about
right,
this one. But those are so, I even read the like adaptations, the books, because I
yes.
just like, throw one in your purse if going somewhere, because you can pick it up, put it down. But I love that you enjoy those as well.
Columbo,
Um,
like even the old, like sometimes it feels like the nostalgia factor of watching like one of those old detective shows from when I
mm,
was like 7 or 6 that like my
mhm.
parents or grandparents used to watch. Like I love that.
It just makes you feel very peaceful. And you also know that at the end, there's going to be a resolution. The
Right,
bad person's going to get what's coming to them. And, it's fine. You don't have
right,
to worry about it. You don't have to think like, oh, the serial killer got away or whatever. So,
right.
and I do love Columbo and like Charlie's Angel, like all that
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
you know. Um, so we're running a little bit out of time. I wanted to ask you to talk a little bit about your reader experience kit that you have that goes along with the book.
So if you go to my website, tamarawinfreyharris.com, there's a reader experience kit. It's free to download. It's got additional questions, to help you have discussions around the different chapters.
Mhm.
It's got tips for having like a safe and healthy intergenerational conversation. And I got input from my two wonderful friends, Dr. Tiffany Monfort Dent, who's a psychologist, Dr. Carolyn Strong, who's an educator. There are, I think, the cutest paper dolls,
I
which I
love the
haven't
paper
printed out
dolls.
yet, but I am going to, and a fantastic playlist put together by a 17-year-old DJ.
Yes. I've
Yeah.
been listening to the playlist because I'm a playlist freak. I have like hundreds of playlists on Spotify. It's
Uh-huh.
ridiculous. But that's also like a self-care for me because I love music so much.
I do
So
too.
I'll just sit up at night and be like, oh, let me do, 90s R&B love jams, or whatever. And it's fun. And then you go
You
back.
know what my new guilty pleasure is? There are all these new reaction YouTube shows, like people who react to
Mhm.
songs they've never heard before. Like everybody knows the Twins, but there
Yes.
are all these other people that like listen to songs from like the 80s, 90s, whatever that I know, and they're like discovering them for the first time. That's so much fun.
Yeah, those are fun. And you can go down a rabbit hole with those. And you start and you look up and it's like, oh, it's been 3 hours.
I know.
Because just keep going and going. Um, so what is next for you?
So actually the next thing is The Sisters Are All Right has a second expanded edition
Mhm.
coming out this fall. I am finishing up my manuscript as we speak,
Fantastic.
with it's going to have some additional updated information and a whole new chapter about power.
Mhm.
So looking at some of the things that Black women have achieved in politics, and our new civil rights movement with Black Lives Matter, and how those fit into all of the stereotypes that we face. So that's the next big thing. Another book coming out this fall, second expanded edition of The Sisters Are All Right.
Because why not publish two books in 1 year?
Why not? That's what I was thinking when I undertook it last year.
Why not? I think that's great. I look forward to it and add it to my Tamara Winfrey-Harris collection.
Awesome.
So before we go, I did want to give you an opportunity to read a little something from the book if you would like.
I would love to. Maybe like everyone, you know what? I'd like to read the epilogue
Oh,
because
that'll be
I,
perfect.
I would hope that the all of the people who are listening to us, it'll be a way for us all to leave on a feel good
Yes.
note. So the epilogue is pick up your oyster knife, and hopefully those you recognize the Zora Neale Hurston reference there. So it's, I love you, Black girl. I love Black girls in Afro puffs and Black girls in bundles of Remy. I love the daddy's girls and the fatherless ones. I love the little sisters who make straight A's and the ones who skip school. I love the hood girls and the suburban girls and the country girls too. I love the quiet girls and the loud girls, the lip smacking, smart talking ones. I love the saved girls and the heathen ones. I love the girls who stay in sweatshirts and J's and the ones in tight Fashion Nova fits. I love the happy girls and the anxious girls and the girls battling depression. I love the trans girls living defiantly. I love the girls in the library and the ones on the basketball court. I love the virgins and the young mamas. I love the girly girls and the butch girls. I love the girls who fight. I love the girls who love boys and the girls who love girls and the girls who love both or neither. I love you, Black girl, unconditionally. And whether you are 15 or 50. You hear me? Today, I love you whether you look or act like they say you should. You are not wrong. And when you are wrong, I love you with all your flaws. No matter what choices and mistakes you have made, no matter where you live, no matter what you look like, no matter what thing has happened to you. And the greatest thing you can learn is to love yourself unconditionally too. It may be the hardest thing you have to learn. And I hope the letters in this book have shown you how. One other thing, Black girl, you must learn to love other Black women and girls the same way. Love us whether we look or act like they say we should. We are not wrong. And when we are wrong, love us with all our flaws, no matter what choices and mistakes we have made, no matter where we live, no matter what we look like, no matter what thing has happened to us. This does not mean you have to become a target for another Black girl's pain or anger or trauma. Doesn't mean you have to silence yourself in the face of Black women. It means you must give your sisters grace and understanding, the benefit of the doubt. So few people give us that. We owe it to each other. We have to acknowledge each other's humanity, even, maybe, especially when we are walking away. I hope the letters in this book have shown you how to do that too. Because we are sisters, Black girl. We have to take care of ourselves and each other. You are me, I am you, we are all right. Inside each of us are tiny pieces of our foremothers, Sarah Boone's ingenuity, Danielle Luna's unforgettable beauty, Toni Morrison's incomparable wisdom, Mamie Till's fierce love, Aretha Franklin's creativity, Martha P. Johnson's fearlessness, Harriet Tubman's will to survive, Katherine Johnson's genius, Michelle Obama's grace. Black girls are made up of all that magic, birthed in the African sun, baptized by the Middle Passage, and burnished by America. This is a power that no one else can claim, just us. We are sisters, you are me, I am you, and we will get free together. Zora Neale Hurston, a great Black woman writer, once said, "I do not weep at the world, I am too busy sharpening my oyster knife." Now, an oyster knife is a utensil used to crack open the shell of an oyster to get the tasty meat inside. Zora meant that she wasn't wasting time thinking about the hard parts of being Black and woman. She didn't care what other people said about her. She was busy trying to get at all the good stuff that life had to offer. Celebrate your Black girl life. Celebrate us. Be like Zora. Get that oyster girl.
I love it so much. And when I got to that and I saw that you had, included Zora, like she is the queen of
Yes.
everything. And I was thinking about how when she said, in Their Eyes Were Watching God, she said she didn't read books, so she didn't know that she was the world and the heavens, boiled down to a drop. And
Yes.
so now we have this book,
Yes.
and all the Black girls and Black women need to read it for that reminder. And so I love that the epilogue of the book focuses on her very sage and lovely advice. And I thank you so much for coming
Thank
on
you so much.
tonight. It was just great and wonderful. I could talk to you for another, however long we
Yes.
would have. But I look forward to talking to you again whenever you want to come on with the
Wonderful.
next book. And I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. I know you have a whirlwind the next few days continuing this virtual book tour. So enjoy it, have fun. Everybody go out, buy a copy of Dear Black Girl. Go ahead and buy a copy of The Sisters Are All Right. Is this one still even in print?
Yes, it's
Okay.
it's still in print. Yeah.
So, go ahead and get this one. And then when the new one comes out in the fall, buy it too. And we hope you all have a great weekend, a great night. Thanks again, Tamara, so much. I've loved talking to you, and we'll see you all next time. I don't know when my next one is, but I'll see you guys soon. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.